Hey everybody, hope you're doing good today. Neil the Knife Guy here. Just going to be doing a disassembly of the Spyderco Vallotton here. Haven't seen a disassembly video of this knife on YouTube yet, so figured I'd be the one to post it. This knife is fairly complex to take apart. Actually, I'll rephrase that. It disassembles pretty easily. There's just a lot of parts that go into this knife, and just going to get at it now. The pivot is a T9, and I believe all the rest of the screws are going to be a T7. So yeah, that one's a T9, so the rest are going to be a T7 if memory serves me right. Hope all you guys had a happy New Year's. Just filming this on the 2nd of the month. Didn't do too much myself, just ended up hanging out with my beautiful girlfriend and had a nice time watching movies and relaxing, and don't get much time off work, so anytime I have to spend quality time with her is quite enjoyable. Just going to take apart those three. The scale comes off. You could see these locating pins here. A lot of Tai Chung Spydercos have those. Just lets the scale not move around and seats it right into place. So I'm going to set that aside. One of the reasons why I do want to take this knife apart is I got this knife used from a friend for my birthday, and did have some rust issues on the inside. Cleaned them up. Don't think it'll be an issue from here on out, but it's always good to just sort of periodically check on it, get a jump on it if it is actually rusting up again. So that part comes off. Next up, switch back to the T7 here. Don't know if someone tried to take care of the rust issues before I did, but you can see these sort of coarse scratch marks in here. I've seen in a couple different videos of people taking apart Tai Chung Spydercos, and they do still have some of these very coarse grind marks on the inside liners. So I'm not too sure about that. Next is these three actual body screws. The other ones just sort of hold on the scale. These ones actually hold the knife together. Just going to set those aside. When a knife has this many parts, it's good to keep track of where each part is coming from. So I just like to group them together. That part comes up, and you got your washer here. Just going to set that down there. I always put my washers, put them down on the table a certain way. I do sort of keep track of what side's facing the blade, what side's facing the liner. Don't think it matters that much, but I have the best success of getting a very smooth action just treating the washers that way. This back spacer does come off, and then basically under this liner you have the same set of screws. Pivot just pops out. I don't see any signs of rust on this, so I'm not going to take it down any further, but if I did, you would have the same amount of parts. You'd have one little handle scale, the bolster part, a liner, and then all these sort of posts here. They are all D-shaped, so they won't spin, which is nice. And they don't have screws on the other side. They're just sort of in there, and these screws actually hold them together. Just gonna grab some TP since it's the only stuff I have around. Ran out of paper towels. I'm not going to use any alcohol on this. It seems to be fairly clean inside. I do carry this knife and do use it from time to time, but it's more of like a collection piece for me, even though I do use it. Just one of those knives that I really wanted for a long time, and definitely not going to be batoning or doing anything pretty crazy with this knife. Clean the lock face, both washer contact areas. Seems like I am coming down with a little bit of a cold, so if you do hear some sniffling, that's just me in the background. Gonna maybe roll up a little bit of this guy, stick it through the pivot hole. You can see it's not too dirty at all. Maybe give a little pivot a cleaning. See how long this pivot actually is? And that's just because it is a very thick knife. Also D-shaped. So slide this back in. I've always been so surprised at this knife, at how solid it feels and how smooth the action is despite the lock bar pressure that's on it. I mean, I haven't done anything to this knife, and you see how far over that lock bar extends. Definitely more than enough to cover the tang of the entire length of the tang of the knife, but it's still so very smooth. Really good quality knife, and makes me definitely look at wanting to get the little Vallotton. Still the same thickness, still thick blade stock, still like a very thin hollow grind, but despite the blade stock, you can see it here, but that's a very thin hollow grind near the edge. Tapers out at the tip to give you a thicker tip. Definitely no worries of snapping off this tip. Something I've been trying recently is just this oil here. This is just for sort of moving parts in a like a hair trimmer, and it's actually quite thin oil, but still I don't know how to describe it. It's a very slick oil, so it really does feel very slippery in hand. So really liking the action this stuff gives to knives, and it is probably just some sort of mineral oil, I imagine. It did say on the label before it fell off that it was food safe, so that's what I'm guessing it is. Just got a little bit of oil on my fingers, so I'm just giving these a little wipe down here. Slip the washer on. Picked up a neat little trick off the Nick Shabazz channel of using something to actually put the oil on instead of globbing it on. All I'm using is a very small flathead driver in this extension tool. And that lets me get the oil where I need it, where it should be, without putting a lot of excess on. I was also one to sort of over oil my knives and then have to wipe them off afterwards. So this does really help with that. You just put a little glob on it. And then you can put it on the washer and smear it around without having too much excess in there. Gonna put a little bit of oil on the detent ball. Not always necessary, but on this knife the lock bar pressure is so much that might as well give it every chance to be as smooth as possible. Drop the blade down. And just keep repeating this until the both sides of the washers are on. It's been a while since I did a disassembly on camera. I forgot how trying it was working around a camera. Drop that little guy on here, maybe move that more into the center of the frame here. Don't really need to put oil on the back side of the washers, the side that's actually facing the liners, but never hurts. There we go. Next up, put the back spacer back on. That. I believe the liner goes on next. And get the stop pin lined up. Probably gonna have to, yeah, just taking the pressure off the lock bar really does help to line up all the pins. Do I have my T7? Yes, I do. I'm just gonna put in these body screws. I don't use Loctite on this because it is using a lot of T7 Torx bit screws. The fit of the threads seem to be good enough that you really don't need it anyway. Just having a little trouble getting this one started. Just putting them in a little snug to start, and then I'll tighten them all down at once. Definitely in need of a new Torx bit set. This one is getting very near the end of its life. Been looking at a Weehaw set. I figure I have enough money invested in knives that I should invest in a decent quality set of Torx bits. And Weehaw does seem to be the industry standard. Just going to tighten all these down a little at a time. Before I did take care of the rust issue on this knife, I actually snapped a body screw, just one of these screws here, off just because they were all rusty. So contacted Spyderco and they did send me out a complete set of screws for the outside here, pivot and 3 bolts, or 3 screws on the outside. Especially with their new warranty change, they seem to be more in line with a lot of other companies' warranties. Disassembly is no longer a problem. As long as you don't absolutely mess up your knife, they'll stand by you, which is always a good thing. Gonna put this portion back on since I already have the and the back side of the pivot is a little bit out of place, so I'm just gonna push that in. There we go. Just gonna snug that up a little bit. Switch over to my T7 again. So many different screws on this knife. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the other side there would be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with the pocket screws, pocket clip screws. Just snug these guys down. If this was a daily user, I probably would put Loctite on these 3 screws here, just so when the scale's on you can't really access them, just so they didn't back out through use. But since I carry this only on like special occasions or a very limited amount of time, I don't worry about it. Just gonna snug these guys up. Give them one more pass. I think they're gonna be good enough. Close it up. Centering's off, so just tighten down the pivot a little bit. See that walk over. It's pretty much centered now. Test the action on it. Drops free. And definitely no blade play. So that's how I take down my Spyderco Vallotton. Great knife, still love it, and definitely one I'll have in my collection for a lifetime. You can see the carry marks just on the stainless steel bolsters here. So I do actually carry this and use it. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Just had some spare time tonight, so decided to do a video, and this is what I came up with. So stay tuned for more, guys. Definitely going to be having more videos in the new year. And thanks to everybody for watching, and have a good night.